Hey everyone, Dr. Stacy here. I wanted to talk to you today about expectations. We all have them. Some of us more than others. Some of the expectations more intricate than others, but they're there no matter what. Whether we are fully in awareness of them, of our expectations, or not. Um, Expectations are, they're interesting and they're tricky. Sometimes expectations could be simple, like expecting someone to say thank you if they ask you for something and you do it. Uh, Sometimes we have expectations of asking people to use basic manners, okay? And we know sometimes we're all very disappointed in the reactions we get from other people. So showing us right away that expectations are, oh my gosh, the word that just came to mind or to mouth was a trap. Expectations are a trap. And it seems that we fall for this same trap, some of us at least, over and over again. Whenever we think that somebody should do something, it's an expectation. We grew up thinking that people should use their P's and Q's, right? Their pleases. I don't know why it's called P's and Q's, but pleases and thank yous, right? We grew up expecting that the manners that we were had drilled into us were the manners that everyone's going to stay on the surface for everybody. It's not always true, right? And we're bewildered when someone doesn't say thank you. Like if you're going to the mall and you hold the door open for somebody and they just walk on through without even trying to grab it from you and without saying thank you, without acknowledging you, we're horrified. How could they do such a thing, right? Because we have this thing called expectation. We expect because we did something nice, someone to say thank you. Well, should that really be? Maybe not. And I hear a lot of you going, of course people should be nice. Maybe. It would be nice if everyone was nice all the time. It's so funny. I entered my first lease signing and I met with the landlord and I went, and this was my first business office. And I met with the landlord and the lease was just enormous. And it was a small little office space. But it was pages and pages and pages. And I got so overwhelmed in the fine print and, oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing? That I turned around and so innocently, as an adult, I was 40 something, and I said, can't everyone just be nice? I agree to be nice. You agree to be nice. And everyone at the table, attorneys, realtors, the landlord, my husband, everyone laughed at me. And I'm like, but seriously, like I was having a moment that I'm like, oh, can't everyone just be nice? But yet, from the heart, from my core, that's really what I wanted. Everyone just be nice. But that was my expectation again, right? So anyway, back to expectations. They can be simple, like holding the door for somebody. And we can grumble and mumble and drop a comment or two, whether it's snarky or sincere, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you. I didn't know you didn't realize I held the door for you." Whatever it is, but in a moment or two, that kind of passes. We can let it go when our expectations aren't fulfilled by strangers. Most of the time, we can let it go when it's little things like that. As these things get bigger, or the expectation gets more emotionally driven, it's harder to let them go. For example, if you work hard on a paper and you expect to do very well on it, or to work hard on a test, or on a job interview, or whatever it is where someone's allowed to judge you because that's the situation you're in the moment, and it is warranted to have some feedback or judgment. But yet our expectation still is to be received in that moment with grace, with fairness, and with proper judgment, kind judgment. And that often doesn't happen. And that, when we have that, it's emotionally charged because it means something to us, we tend to have a harder time letting go of that unmet expectation, right? So if you work really hard for this paper and you expect to get an A on it or a B plus on it, and the professor really didn't, I don't want to say they didn't like it, but their expectation of how your paper should be wasn't met. Okay, so you see they have an expectation too. If you're not seeing eye to eye, then it's really I don't know, it almost seems more important to you because it's emotionally driven. Make sense? Now, if we take this a step further and we look at expectation in terms of family or someone that's in friendships or business relations. Now, the emotional charge just went up a lot more, didn't it? Our expectations or our vision of our expectations becomes a lot more concrete. What we want, what we're willing to accept. And if these things are not met, then we have a harder time letting go of them. And when we have a harder time letting go of expectations, we start internalizing it more and more. And the relationships break down. We start breaking down. And this is where a lot of the times dis-ease can begin to manifest. So I'd like to give you a couple more examples, concrete examples of how expectations can be. I actually decided this is going to be a really good topic to really expand on. And I'm looking into writing about it in greater depth. But for today, let's go with, let's pick on our spouses, okay? And I can pick on my spouse because he's being fantastic as I learn to navigate expectations in a whole different level than I ever have before. It's funny because when we talk about the word judgment has a very negative connotation to it. Don't judge me for how I dress. Don't judge me for how I walk or what I eat. Don't judge me for my beliefs, right? But expectations are a type of judgment. If I expect you to act a certain way, or I expect you to eat a certain way, or I expect you to respond in a certain manner, it's a judgment. I think my way is better than your way. Otherwise, I wouldn't have my expectation over your action, correct? It's also a type of control. I want you to act this way, and you're going to act this way because that's my expectation of you, or there's going to be a confrontation. There's going to be a discrepancy. There's going to be an argument. There's going to be conflict. So in amping up my awareness of my expectations, and my goal in doing this is to free myself further than I have ever before. My husband is being wonderful in trying to, I don't want to call him a test dummy, but that's kind of what he is, in a sense, in the most loving, sweetest way. He is the one that I am working out my expectation with, but verbally. I'm trying to work out the fine tuning of expectations, or not having any expectations with everyone in my life. But he's the one that I'm verbally working through it with. So he hears what my expectation is, how he fell short of my expectations, and then follows full circle of my apology of why I should not have had an expectation in the first place, and how we can work through that and communicate versus having an expectation. So communicate a need and a want versus having expectations at all. So this is kind of how it looks. I needed some help, and I verbalized that I needed some help getting my daughter's lunch together, getting my lunch together, and just getting ready to leave the house in the morning. But I didn't lay out what those details were, what putting together her lunch meant in my eyes, in my expectation, in what it looked like for myself, getting my lunch together in my expectations, and how I could be helped best under my expectations or perception to efficiently leave the house earlier in the morning. So without that communication, my husband really felt like he was doing so much more. And in reality, he was doing more. He was trying to help by asking, how can I help you? How can I help you? What can I do next? And all that did was really piss me off. So in his efforts of being kind, my expectation is, if you're helping me, you're thinking for me in the way that I would think, so I don't have to think at all. Okay. I'm very well aware of how that doesn't work. But listen again to how in my mind, if you're helping me, I don't have to tell you how to help me. You should already know. Okay. And yes, part of this is living with me and being married to me for 27 years. Part of it is based on communication that we've had, although not specific about morning routines. And my husband and I really communicate very well. We've gone through love languages. We've gone through Eden energy medicine, comfort, how to communicate better. We've done elemental communications. What kind of element are we? And how can we work better with we're different elements, clearly. I'm fire and he's metal. So I'm like, woo, and he's like, well, let's just do one thing at a time. Let's get it done completely without emotion. Let's just keep going. And I am emotional, fast, quick. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And so we work through a lot of this, and I think we're one of, not to toot our own horns or anything, but I think we're pretty up there as far as couples being able to communicate clearly and effectively with each other. With that being said, we are human and we are living on this physical plane. And as long as we do, we have more to learn and grow. So I had this expectation of how my husband could help me. And he had his reality of what he was doing to be helpful. And they didn't merge. So once we sat down, and I realized that it was my fault. My expectations were my downfall. And if you can't specifically go through and almost itemize what your expectations are, no one can figure them out, no matter how close they are, no matter how much you seem to share a brain together. You have to be specific, or drop the expectation completely and say in your own mind, I'm asking for help, I am open to help, and I'm open to receive that help in whichever way it should transmute. not transmute. That's not what I meant. I don't know the word, but however that help will be manifested for me, that's what I am graciously accepting. That's not the place I was. Okay. So once I took a step back and saw that in my wanting or my expecting of things done a certain way, even though I wasn't physically controlling my husband, I was in essence, my mind trying to control the situation of how I wanted it done. And anytime we try and control, anytime we try and expect on somebody else, it never has a beautiful ending. I guess it does, because if we can learn from it, it could be beautiful. But it's not necessarily smooth in the middle, and that's what we're looking for, right? We want smooth, we want calm, we want joyous, we want helpful, we want everybody just peacefully getting along so nicely. So I hope that makes sense how I'm explaining it to you. Another thing is, we do this a lot with kids. Oh, yeah, the love languages came back to me. Our love languages can dictate what our expectations are, or our expectations of people. For me, my love language is more acts of service and time. I love I know you love me in my mind if you are sharing time with me and doing things with me or for me. I'm going to pick on my son, Elliot. My son, Elliot, that is not his love language. His love language is gifts. Buy me gifts. Let me buy you. He loves buying gifts for other people too. So as much as he's willing to accept these gifts, he wants to give them to everyone else too. So, and I'm not like that. So yes, I like gifts, but gifts to me aren't as important as time and the energy that you share together. Not one is better or worse than the other. They're truly not. I believe that with all my heart. But in each moment of expectation, we get tricked into thinking we're right. We get tricked into thinking our way is the only way. And we get tricked into being hurt. And that happens to lots of people in so many different ways. That's why I want to talk to you about expectations. And I do believe we have to go further and deeper into this conversation and the types of expectations there are. But I wanted to give you an overview today, something to think about, something to just spark in your mind, to bring into your awareness that where do you have expectations? To expect anyone to do anything that you have not clearly communicated and they have agreed upon, it's always going to lead in disappointment. So just the first step is really seeing where you have these expectations. Where do they show their creepy little selves, right? Where are they hiding? Was the expectation at home? Was it with chores? Was it with dinner? Is it in conversation? I expect them to communicate clearer with me. Well, is that your right to expect that of them? Is there something that, is there ever anything that you can expect of somebody else and just want them to know and act a certain way? So be aware, look around, look within, not asking you to point this out in other people, just in yourself. It's a self-exercise. And see where you are having expectations. And then notice if you could have possibly avoided being upset, frustrated, hurt, aggravated, or any of those fun, wonderful emotions that are associated with somebody not meeting your own expectation. Think about it, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thanks for sharing time with me. With much love from me to you. Clearly. Namaste.